All right, that should be everything. Good. Hi, and welcome. It's good to have you with us. This is the American Association of Independent Periodontists, and it is May 6th, 2015. And we're going to talk today about advertising. I know we've talked about this before. We've talked about advertising. By the way, if you can see my screen, do you see my screen right here? You see that? During spring break, I decided I wanted to go to Mount Rushmore, and because I've wanted to go to Mount Rushmore for years, and so the office was closed, and the week before the office was closed, I said, "Good, I'm finally going to go to Mount Rushmore." It was a great trip. I did it all by myself. Just went up on a Monday, came back on a Thursday, so I spent 2 days in South Dakota and took a ride to Wyoming on the second day and saw Mount Rushmore, and it was really great. So here's what Stacy did for me, and notice, yeah, for those of you who've never seen me before, that's what I look like on a mountain. Anyway, that was a good trip. But anyway, um, we're going to talk about advertising today, and the whole idea of this thing is, what do you do in order to be able to advertise effectively and have patients come into your office? We're going to talk about this because I talked about, even in the promo, we talk about branding. And boy, I'll tell you, you're going to hear people talk to you about branding all the time. And branding is not where it is. Branding is not going to create a patient. Well, it may create a patient for you, but it's certainly not going to create a campaign for you. But you'll hear it all the time. Be on our radio program for blah, 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 for this particular time to that particular time, and we will brand you. We'll make your brand known. Well, no, that's not the way it works. It doesn't work that way. The other thing is, people talk about name recognition. We got to get your name out there. Sorry, that's for an advertising person who wants to sell you advertising but isn't willing to track the results. Getting your name out there is public relations. Getting your name out there is not marketing or advertising. Getting your name out there may be, for example, what we do with the charitable giving campaign, or writing the book, or writing the blog, or being in the newspaper, or those things, those good things that we do for the public. That's getting your name out there. As a matter of fact, it's getting your name out there in a very positive sense. But when we're talking about marketing and we're talking about advertising, we're talking about what are the things that we need to do in order to bring a patient directly into the office. If it doesn't bring a patient directly into the office, it is not advertising. It is not marketing. So we've got to see that. We've got to see that for what it is. And yes, every once in a while I try to make things so crystal clear that I become offensive. But I want you to understand that in fact, marketing is bringing a patient into the office. Anything less than that is not that. Now, why do I say that? I say that because, I'm repeating myself now, advertising agencies are going to talk to you about getting your name out there. That you got to get your name out there in order to be able to make things work. So just be prepared for that. The advertising agencies that I recommend are people that I've already dealt with. I know the work, and I've tested them in some way, or tested them a lot. So you don't have to make the mistakes that I've made. Another thing, and I haven't covered it. Keith may have covered it. As you know, while Keith was speaking, I was kind of in bed, so I didn't have full concentration on everything that Keith was saying. But of course, I know Keith very well anyway. But there's this concentration on search engine optimization, SEO. And people will say they'll get you to the first page in Google. How do they do that? Well, they have particular techniques that they use to put your material on other websites. That's called a backlink. Or they make sure that certain words keep on showing up so that when a Google search is done on those particular words, your name happens to come up. Or when somebody does a Google search for those particular words, your name happens to come up. I was with an SEO provider for 2 years, and let me tell you, just because your name reaches the first page does not necessarily mean that people are going to click on you. that there are other ways to make that happen. And so if somebody is saying, I will get you to the first page of Google, your question is, how many patients are you going to bring me? And can I talk to somebody so I can find out how many patients you brought them? That's how important it is. I don't concentrate very much on SEO, search engine optimization. I don't. Because with well, let's do this for a second. Here. Let's go to, before we go to the lecture, let's go to something else. Let's go to something called Google. And I'm going to type in dental implants, Melbourne, Florida, okay? So let's take a look at this. On the top, you're seeing the paid ads. This means that somebody, like drleesheldon.com, oh, we made it to the top, is paying Google a certain amount of money per click so that every time somebody clicks on this, my account will be charged. And when we click on this, it'll go to my website. Now, please, all of you, don't click on this, because if you click on this, I'll have to pay money. And unless you're going to come in and see me for dental implants, that's kind of a waste of money. But understand that any of these things that show ads, so that's this here, these three things here, and anything in this column has been paid for. And essentially, it's done on a bidding basis. Example. Pay-per-click ad, the highest bid for dental implants may be $20 per click. And somebody perhaps, and I'm only giving an example, I really don't know what I'm paying per click right now, but it may be the Palm Bay Dental Implants said, I will pay $20 per click. Well, if I want to be number one, that means that I have to promise that I'll pay Google more than $20 per click. I'll pay $22 per click, and that gets me to the top. It may work something like, it does work something like that. By the way, it's not necessary that you be at the top of the ads. Although I can tell you that ordinarily, since people are looking in this column, it's nice for you to be in one of these three rather than these, which you can see I'm scrolling all the way down, and there's what? There's something like 8 or 9 in that right-hand column. Somebody who is good at a Google AdWords campaign, and they're professionals who know how to list you and list you correctly, will be able to guide you and let you know what your budget should be in order to be able to have your ad in the correct place. Now, what's the advantage of having an ad rather than doing SEO? Well, in this ad, by the way, this is all created by Gilead. And remember, we talked about Gilead does market research. So they find out what's important to a patient in my office by doing a survey of 50 of my patients in the office, and they're able to come up with words in the ad. State-of-the-art technology happened to test very well with the 50 patients, or with many of the 50 patients, probably most of the 50 patients that we called. And so that made a difference. So therefore, they put that in here. The $79 examination and consult happens to resonate very well as well. So when you're listing with Google, if you're working with a Google AdWords campaign, you can pick the words that are in that particular ad. If we're working down here, so these are the Google AdWords. If we're looking down here below the ads, these are called organic listings. An organic listing is something that's created by Google that they've derived from your website in some way. And I really don't know the entire technology about that. But notice here on drimplant.com, it says including dentures, cosmetic dentistry, dental implants, surgery, and routine dental care. Notice this is what Google drew off of that website. And so it doesn't necessarily have the same, it doesn't resonate the same as it would the words that I've chosen, that I'm paying for, state-of-the-art technology and $79 exam and consult. Call now. And you'll see as you scroll down and as you take a look at the listings that are in your area, you'll see that you're getting generic words. Notice here's my this is my organic listing. So my SEO was actually pretty good for dental implants in Melbourne. Dr. Sheldon does the entire dental implants procedure right in his office in Melbourne. Dr. Sheldon has over 25 years dental implant experience. Not bad, okay? But that's the difference. So this kind of a listing means that you're paying a company to make sure that in some way there's enough data out there to make sure that you're on page one. Sometimes that takes several months, by the way, to occur. And so that gets you on page one, but the ads, you'll always be on page one because you're paying to be on page one. Kind of get that? That's a little bit off the beaten track and not what we started off saying that we would do today, but I think it's important. When I first started doing Google AdWords, I did it myself, and the results were dismal. I contract with Google, and I created my own ads, and I didn't put enough budget in to really make a difference, and probably what I said wasn't particularly good too. I did it probably 7-8 years ago just to play with it. But when I really got serious about this kind of marketing, and by the way, internet marketing is going to be the most important marketing for almost all of you. Almost all of you. Internet marketing is number one. You all know how many patients I get out of internet marketing. If you don't know, I'm getting between 20 and 30 patients a month just from internet marketing alone. It's an important venue. But when I was with another company before I was with Gilead, I hired a Google AdWords certified person, and I listed with them, and they looked at the market and decided what the best words were, and then they were able to track these ads. And that's an important thing also. A good Google AdWords provider, whether it's Gilead or anybody else you're using, is going to see how many times this particular ad was clicked upon. If this ad isn't clicked upon, particularly in the position it's in, then they're going to say, gee, maybe state-of-the-art technology is not what resonates. And they'll go to the next ad, and they'll put the next ad in. And within a very short period of time, they can change this ad to another ad that may resonate better. And they can see how many people are clicking. So a good provider is looking at how many clicks occur. And then the next thing is once it's clicked, once you clicked onto this, then it's tracking it to your website, and then it tracks what's happened while they're in your while the person who clicked has been in your website. And of course, the most important thing is there's a tracking phone number, and so they see whether people called this phone number, and that tells you how effective the ad was. So there's a certain science behind it. You can do it yourself. You can do any of these things yourself, but I suppose you can do dental implants yourself too. You get the right people to do the right things, then it makes this kind of advertising very effective and very, very efficient. Okay, so let's go to the PowerPoint program that I said I was going to begin today, and let's do that. Why am I not seeing what I need to see? Hang on, I'll be there. Oh, this is on DVD. I can't. I've got to be professional. Okay, so here we are, advertising design. Okay, one thing that's very important is positioning. And if you take a look in the yellow pages, you'll see this a lot. Take a look on the yellow pages. Yes, people still use the yellow pages. And by the way, I don't use yellow pages. I don't advertise very much, but I do have a little bit of a listing there, and I do have a block ad there. Why? The people who need our services are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and particularly the people in their 60s, 70s, or older are still used to using the phone book. So just because the phone book is dying out doesn't necessarily mean that it's dying out for our particular patients. I wouldn't eliminate the phone book as a possible source of referrals, and I'd probably spend a little bit of my marketing budget. Well, not probably would. I do spend a little bit of my marketing budget, not a lot, but a little bit of my marketing budget on yellow pages. But if you take a look at a yellow pages ad, and particularly in dentists, it'll list all the services they do. We do root canals, we do implants, we do gum therapy, we do crowns, we do bridges, we do dentures, we do partials, you know all that type of thing. That's not positioning. That's just listing services. And frankly, if you are a potential patient looking and you have a particular problem, tell me, do you want to go to the person who lists himself as doing everything? I don't think so. But if you find somebody who says, listen, I specialize in replacing teeth. As a matter of fact, I take crippled dental patients and I make them healthy again. Well, the person's a crippled dental patient might identify with that. See, that's positioning. That's essentially say, I specialize in crippled dental patients, or I specialize in patients who've lost confidence in dentistry. All of a sudden, that puts you in a position. It's a lot different from services. I positioned myself, and I was lucky, frankly, and it may be easier for me, or was easier for me, because I started doing dental implants a long time ago. And I decided to position myself as the dental implant specialist, even though we can't call ourselves that. Although the AAP is going to change their list, their moniker sometime soon, and I'm sure implants is going to be included in that. But up until now, they haven't done that. But I couldn't. I positioned myself as the dental implant specialist here, and I do get more dental implants done here in Brevard County than anyplace else. I concentrated on that early. I'm not sure I could concentrate on that now, but you can concentrate on the areas that you want to concentrate in. And so you can decide what your position is. And so this is a Hubbard, and it is first, everybody who's on here tonight owns a position on something. If you don't, then your practice is failing. Okay, so you do have a position that you own. You might be the best root planer. You might be the best lanapper. You might be the best perioscoper. You might be the person who does ceramic implants. You may have a particular position that you already own. You want to make use of a position you already know, because if you're already known in your community for doing that, then you can continue to advertise that particular thing and get more and more people in. And because you already own that position, you have patients who will write you testimonials to indicate that, in fact, you own that position, because they own the result of that position. So let's assume that you're big in the perioscope and non-surgical periodontal therapy. And you have patients whose pockets have gone from 9 down to 3. That's a good position to own. In fact, there aren't very many perioscopes in the country. There's fewer than 100 perioscopes in the country. So not a bad position to own, that you're different from anybody else. Okay, so once you own a particular position, then what do you do to expand your practice? You adopt a position that you want to own. So let's assume for a moment that you're the biggest perioscoper, and now you want to adopt the position of full mouth reconstructionist, or however you want to call that. Then all of your marketing goes into that particular area, rather than the listing of all the different services you do. You decide, here's the position that I want to own, and therefore I'm going to adopt that position. I'm still the expert in the perioscope, but now I'm going to be the expert in full mouth rehabilitation. And that means all of your advertising, all of your marketing, everything is directed in that particular venue. Now, how do you know if that's a position you want to own? One is, do you want to do it? Number two, do patients want it? And that's where market research comes in. If patients want it, then if you adopt the position as the expert in that, then those patients who want it are going to come to you. Okay, that's why marketing is, when we're doing marketing, market research and surveying is really important, because you can look at what the potential patients are saying, you can decide what your skill set is or what you want your skill set to be, and you can see how you can get them to match in order to be able to grow your practice. And so now you may own 2 positions. So what's the next rule? The next rule is convince everyone to concentrate exclusively on this one positioning approach. Whatever that positioning approach is, That's what you're going to advertise towards. Okay, and then from time to time, evaluate your PR position along with your advertising, merchandising, and overall marketing positions. It's directly from the public relations series that was written by Hubbard. Okay, good thing to do. Make sure you're looking at that singular area, and it will produce results. Now, an ad must be factual, and it must be explicit. Now, particularly these days. How many times have you seen advertising, false advertising? You hear truth in advertising. You hear all of these phrases that indicate that, in fact, the advertising may not have been exactly the way advertising should be. It may not be truthful, and let me tell you, it's a big problem when you advertise one thing, and then the patient comes in, and there's something more to it that wasn't in the ad. I'll give you a great example. You see it. Those of you who have dental implant centers that are around your area, you know about teeth in an hour, teeth in a day, teeth in whatever. And by the way, teeth in an hour is a Noble Biocare coined phrase. You've got to, in order to use that, there's a copyright or a trademark on that particular thing. Everybody thinks that they're going to come in and they're going to extract, and you're going to extract all the teeth, put dental implants in, and put in a permanent prosthesis all in the same day. Well, we did that with teeth in an hour in like 2005, 2006, and you know what happened with that? It didn't work. So why? Primarily because the gingiva would recede after the surgical procedure were done. And even when we were doing teeth in an hour, and I was the first one to do teeth in an hour in Central Florida, and I was probably the first one to get out of it as well. Well, maybe not. But what we found was the gingiva shrunk away, and we would never extract teeth, put dental implants in, and put the prosthesis in at one time. It was always done on a fully edentulous patient. But we never tell patients that these are temporary teeth, and 4 to 6 months later is when you're going to get your permanent teeth. That doesn't fit into this 30-second ad. That's something that we have to explain once the patient comes in. So that's what I mean. An ad must be factual and explicit. In this case, it isn't. Okay, so what are the things that should be in an ad? Okay, these are things, as you're evaluating advertising, write this down or you're going to get the DVD. And I want you to check out the advertising copy to see whether it fulfills all of these rules. I'm going to give you several rules tonight so you can see how this works. Okay, so the first thing is, what is it? How valuable is it? What does it do? Kind of important, isn't it? How easy is it to do it? How costly is it? How do you acquire it? And where do you get it? Where do you get it from? It really should be, where do you get it? Okay. So let's take a look at something that you've all seen before. At least I think you've seen it, or I hope you've seen it. Let's take a look at my website. Okay. What is it? Okay, in this case, it's Solid Bite Treatment. By the way, there's a brand, and the brand is always tied in with something else, but I'm giving away the rest of this lecture. But what is it? It's called Solid Bite Treatment. Now, I'm lucky. I've been using Solid Bite for 5 years. People in Melbourne, Florida know what Solid Bite is. People in your town don't know what Solid Bite is, but here they do, because everything that I've advertised, myself, reconstruction, stationery, everything says Solid Bite. Okay, so Solid Bite Treatment. How valuable is it? Well, our examination has a $424 value. You can see you get a comprehensive exam, digital x-ray, CT scan if needed, $424 value. And how much you're going to pay? You're only going to pay $79. I know somebody, and I won't bring out his name. I know somebody who started putting an offer on his website. Didn't change any of his website. At least I don't think he did. I think all he did was put an offer on the front page. He got more patients as a result of the offer. That's how important an offer is on the homepage. Is it professional? Yes. People want to come in and see you, and frankly, I know people who are charging $600 for an initial examination. Can you imagine the number of people you've screened out just because you're charging $600 for an examination, because a person is charging $600 for an examination? Now, I'm sure the examination is worth it, But if we're trying to bring more traffic into the office, just think about how you would look at something like this. What would you say if for $79 you got an FMX and you got a CT scan? That would be valuable. Okay? And everybody, whether you have a lot of money or a little money, everybody is looking for a bargain. Frankly, diagnosis can be a bargain tool. I know as doctors we should be paid for our time. I totally understand that. But I also know as clinicians and as businessmen we get paid more for the service that we do than for the diagnostic service that we do, don't we? In order to do that, I want to make sure that we're getting patients in. And so an offer will get patients in. All you have to do, if you want to do this, is call your website provider tomorrow and say, listen, I want you to put down $79 and you list the services you want and just test it and see how many patients come in as a result. I hope you're pleasantly surprised. Okay, what does it do? So what does it do? Solid bite treatment is the closest thing to natural teeth, using teeth fixed in place without any glue, and you can eat whatever you want. How easy is it to do it? Click here to learn more, and there it is, teeth on the very same day as implant placement. With new technology, Dr. Sheldon placed a new set of teeth on the very same day as tooth extraction and implant placement. The same thing that we were talking about before, and there I am listing it, okay? So how costly is it? $79, okay? So it's a $424 value, $424 value, $79 to come in. How do you acquire it? Call this number. And by the way, this number is a tracking number. So we know that if people clicked on this particular website in this particular way, they're calling this particular number, and we know, in fact, that the patient is called from the website because we can track it. Not only that, but the people who are tracking it also record the incoming conversation. This call will be recorded for training purposes. How often have you heard that? And so then you can go back and you can listen to the conversation, and you can see how well your front desk person did or your phone scheduler did in scheduling that patient. It really is used for training purposes, because if things go well, you can say that at a girl, and if they don't go okay, then there's an opportunity for a learning session where you see whether, in fact, the front desk person actually went with the phone script that you've developed and that we did earlier on this year. So it's a tracking number, and recording is really important, because who is the person who's going to control the number of patients coming into your office? That's right, the person who answers the phone. So important. For those of you who got into the AIP a little bit later this year, believe me, phone answering is probably the key. In fact, your phone needs to be answered regular business hours, Monday through Friday, even though you're not working on Friday. And it has to be answered during lunch. Why? When do you make your calls? When you're taking lunch. So it has to be offered during lunch. Can't say we're gone for lunch now, we'll be back at 1. Nah, can't do that. You need to stagger your schedule in order to make sure that phone is answered. It will make so much of a difference, you'll be able to hire an additional person. By the way, how late should the phone be answered? 6 p.m. No, not 5 when you go home. 6 p.m. Why? Because when you go home at 5 o'clock, who do you call? You may call people for an appointment the next day. You've got to be accessible. And so if the phone is answered from 8 to 6 or even 9 to 6, because people call later during the day, if it's answered later on during the day, you will get more patients. Okay, and finally, so how do you acquire it? You call and you book an appointment. Where do you get it from? How do you acquire it? You can also acquire my book, by the way. And so if they're not ready to make an appointment, good, they've got another thing they can do. They can watch a TV show that I've done. They can read the book that Matthew and I wrote. There's some way in which they can acquire something. And I send out probably 5 or 10 books per week, because people will click on this book. They want to see that. Once they've clicked on the book, then they have to leave their name and address, and then I'm sending out the book to that name and address. Now that's on my database, and now I can, then by the way, their email address is there too. And so now I can market to people who are interested in my book. Okay, where do you get it from? Well, of course. So we talked about two different types of marketing. One is branding, one is direct response marketing. I'll talk about branding first. Okay, branding is a mass marketing strategy. The goal is to remind customers of your brand and the products associated with your brand. The more times the ad is run, the more likely the customer is to seek your product. So it's a mass marketing strategy. We're not mass marketers. We can't afford to be mass marketers. Here are the people who are mass marketers. Those are the people who do mass marketing strategy. They want to make sure that you recognize the Coca-Cola bottle cap and that signature. They want to know, be sure that you know about the Nike swoosh, and every time you look at somebody who's wearing Nike, you see that. They want to see that, and so that's a mass marketing strategy. It's not practical for us. So, as I said, if somebody's talking about branding, you might want to consider going someplace else. Okay, the other type of marketing is direct response marketing. Now, you may have seen direct response marketing. As a matter of fact, I think you have. So this is written by, I don't know who Alan Dibb is. I just took a quote off the internet. Designed to evoke an immediate response and compel prospects to take some specific action, such as opting into your email list, picking up the phone and calling for more information, placing an order, or being directed to a web page. Okay? Evokes an immediate response. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight with regard to advertising. Your advertising needs to evoke an immediate response. I talked to somebody just a few days ago. His ad was in a magazine, and it's now 2 or 3 months later, and he's still waiting for it to kick in. Do you think it's really going to kick in 3 months from now if it didn't kick in right away when the readership was the highest? No. Okay? So that means that response wasn't good. Here's something you've all seen. There's direct response marketing. Okay? Request your free information kit today. That's a direct response. And so if your ad is running and people then call you, click on you, do whatever they're doing in order to get to you, then you know that that ad was effective. And if that ad was effective, then you can take that ad and you make it into a bigger ad. So you test ads cheaply, inexpensively, and make sure they're small. And people respond to that ad, then it's worth taking out a quarter page in your local newspaper, because you know they already responded to that. Sleep Number Bed, as you know, started this way. Now they have Sleep Number stores all over the country. This is how they worked with direct response. So here's something that I did. This is a while ago. It's kind of a dog-eared postcard. We did this through Vistaprint. Okay, took a picture of the staff at that time, and then we sent this out for a lecture. This was before the Scott Westermeyer program. This is my version of it. And notice it didn't fulfill all of the rules of advertising. We happened to send this out, I believe, to everybody on our list, our existing patients and everybody else who had called and had been interested in some way. So Vistaprint is very cheap. You can develop an ad like this with Vistaprint and get the postcards, and you can have them stamp them, and they'll send it out for you, or you can do it yourself. Very easy. This is one of the older ads that we did. Here's another one. Here's another direct response ad. Didn't fulfill all of the requirements here, but, it worked a little bit. 10 things you should know about dental implants, okay? Call, 24-hour recorded message. People don't want to talk to a person. They would like to talk to a machine. Okay, call for your free booklet. Call now. Okay, that would work. And so people were calling our office to request a free booklet, but about half of them wouldn't request a free booklet. They would request an appointment with us. See, so it can work that way. So that's a direct response type of ad. What can you do to get a person, as Dan Kennedy says, to raise his hand or raise her hand, meaning that that person is interested? What do you do to do that? And then you collect all of the data. Every time a patient calls, we've talked about this all year, you want to get their name, their phone number, their address. You want to get their email address so that you can continue to market to them afterwards, even if they don't make an appointment with you. So if we look at direct response and we look at how direct response marketing works, then here are the 6 criteria for a direct response ad. Okay, killer headline. Okay, this is what we used. Remember, I told you that in April we gave a couple of seminars. This is the seminar ad. And by the way, this came directly from Scott Westermeyer's program. Scott gets full credit for this. Obviously, I had to modify it for Lee Sheldon rather than Scott Westermeyer, but this is his ad. And by the way, if you're going to do dental implant lecture program, I've told you this, I believe this is probably the third time, order Scott's program. Just go to Scott Westermeyer, get the program from him, tell them you're a member of the AIP. It costs $5,000 instead of $6,000, and you'll get his program. His program is excellent. It gives you an entire soup to nuts primer on exactly what to do to run a successful dental implant lecture program. Okay, so killer headline. Here's the killer headline: missing multiple teeth. How many of our patients are missing multiple teeth, or how many patients that we want to treat are already missing multiple teeth? Okay, so that's the headline. Identify a problem. Same thing, missing multiple teeth. Provide a solution. We can help. Here's the proof that we're actually able to do something. Take a look at the before and after. And boy, if you ever get me alone, I will tell you a story about this person. And so will any member of my staff. But anyway, there's the before, there's the after. Okay, proof. Call to action. Well, it's a free seminar. Come now. It's only happening on April 7th and April 9th. So a free seminar. Call us. And then the next important thing is something called a dual readership path. So what do you see? You see big words or big letters, and you see small letters. So people are going to look at the big letters first. Multiple missing teeth, or missing multiple teeth, we can help, free seminars. That's what's going to pop out to them. Then, if that means something to them, then they will read the smaller print. Okay, so that's the dual readership path. Go to big print, and then they can go to smaller print later on. And combine your brand with any ad that you produce. Because your brand itself you can't brand yourself like Coca-Cola. But if you accompany your brand with everything you send out, everything you advertise, every piece of stationery, every business card, anything that's associated with you, then that brand starts to become associated with your name. And we tested this brand Solid Bite, and it took a while for it to catch on. But as I said before, it has caught on. So there it is. There's Solid Bite on our stationery. And there's Solid Bite on our sign outside. And of course, we made sure that we got solidbite.com. So that Solid Bite, and people call, and I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry, but yeah, people do call asking for Solid Bite. They don't know what it is, but they're asking for Solid Bite. So you can develop your own little brand name as well. Just don't concentrate on the brand. Just make sure the brand accompanies everything that you do and that you're interested in. Okay, and finally, well, not finally. We actually talked about this, testing the ad. So you develop small ads. You do your market research. You design the ad according to the rules that we had earlier in the seminar. But you don't know how well the ad's going to work until you test it. I was working with a general dentist who was a consultant to me probably 3 or 4 years ago, and he said, and so part of the consulting program, I paid him some money, and he was great, and he spent some time with me. He spent a lot of time with me on the phone, and we got some things worked out. And I said I wanted to try advertising in the newspaper again, because newspaper advertising wasn't working. He said, Lee, this ad always works. And so I took his ad, and I just took his name out of it, and I put my name in it. Guess what? It didn't work. So we have to test an ad to see if it works. And then we have a backup ad if that doesn't work. And we've spent small dollars working with that ad and seeing whether that works. So if it hasn't worked the first time, you don't say newspapers don't work. You don't say average TV doesn't work. That isn't it. It's your ad didn't resonate. So now you create a new ad, test it small, and see if it works. And then if it works, run it more frequently and make it larger. Okay, I believe that is our program for tonight. So let me open it for questions. And if you want to raise your hand, by all means, you can click on the box to your right and you can see raise your hand, and I will click on you and we can talk. Okay? Now, we talked before. I opened everybody's mic. I'll tell you what, I can open everybody's mic. How about if I open everybody's mic? Never done that before. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm listening to everybody here. And if you have any comments, any questions, anything you want to say, I am listening to all of you right now. So anybody has any questions, hang on, I now have opened everybody's mic up. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Lee, how are you testing the newspaper ads? Just polling patients that call?
Yeah, essentially we're looking at the newspaper ads we were advertising the free booklet, and so we were able to determine how many people were calling for that free booklet. We actually used a separate answering line for the free booklet. It was a free booklet line, and usually, and that was going to a recorded message, so we didn't necessarily disturb our staff that was answering the phones here. But some people, once they saw the ad, would call our office directly rather than calling that booklet line. But yeah, we actually counted the number of calls that came in to that line to see whether that ad was working. And if it didn't, then the next week I ran another small ad to see whether that was working. And we continued to test different ads until we got to one that was working properly.
So how would, let's say I don't have a separate line or I don't have a booklet to hand out. What would some alternative suggestions be? I mean,
you could do anything. You could do anything free. It could be a free toothbrush, free Sonicare. I mean, that's a little bit pricey,
okay.
but there could be some things that you would advertise that would be free. I would suggest that you actually can do something. You don't have to do a free booklet. You might do free information, and you might type up a 2 or 3 page summary of something and just have it available and just mail it out. It doesn't have to be a booklet. It can be 3 pages that are stapled. Free information is good. It gives the patient an easy way of getting to you. They don't have to come and meet you. All they have to do is call and get your free something or other. And that's often a good way to introduce yourself. And then the patient says, "Well, I like what he wrote. I think I'll go to him." Good.
Thank you very much, Lee.
More questions, Ray? You get your hand raised. I see you, Ray.
Hey Lee, good evening. How are you?
All right. How are you?
Pretty good. I was just wondering, you were talking about have somebody answer the phone past 5 o'clock.
Yep.
I mean, who answers the phone then?
Who answers the phone then?
Yes.
Any staff member that you're paying to answer the phone then? What do you mean?
So, because 5 o'clock everybody goes home. So
no, we got to decide, Ray, who is the boss and who is the employee, and whether they have to do it whether they're going to do it on a rotating basis. There has to be some agreement that, in fact, we're trying to make this practice work, and the phone does ring between 5 and 6. And if you don't answer the phone or your staff member doesn't answer the phone, some other dentist staff member will answer the phone, and you will miss those patients.
yeah, but you see, the thing is, if you don't have the schedule in front of you, and let's say the patient needs to schedule an appointment, you still have to wait till the next day, right? You can't. Really...
Absolutely not. We are. I mean, I don't mean to argue with you, Ray, but of course I'm going to. No, I have a staff member staying here in my office every day till 6 o'clock. Except for Friday, not Friday. And so the schedule is there. But even let's assume that you assigned it and a person was going to do it from home. There are ways to get onto your computer from home in order to be able to schedule. So they could use go to mypc.com for example. There's a way that they can get on. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to do it. But it absolutely, I mean, it's almost invariable that the phone rings so much during that time
So when
that
you
you are
look
going to
at
lose patience if you don't answer.
is there blood
I
flowing
see.
out in any
You also
area?
mentioned something with
And
that you're
yes,
using
which
Gilead as your advertising agency.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Now, how do you get in contact with them, and do
okay.
they
So
have to
take a piece of
design
the
then
board
the
here.
ad for you, or
Yeah, right.
how does that work?
Pause there.
Gilead
Right,
Dental Marketing.
into a sausage.
Where there is some, I wish I knew. There's
And
somebody
I want
talking in
you
the
to do
background.
two things. Number one, just saturate that in water.
By the way, whoever is talking right now, we can all hear you.
And the lip.
Okay. Anyways,
And
Gilead Dental Marketing,
then go for push
GILLEARD
down
Dental
very
Marketing.
firm from the
And you can look
outside.
it up on the internet. They're in Irvine, California.
So like she's resting her head in her
I see.
hand.
Okay, I hear somebody on the background, but I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
All right.
got all the mics open. That's the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate
All right.
it.
Just resting
Sure
her
thing, Ray.
head
Who else has a question?
in her hand over that area and put some firm pressure on, and that should stop the
Oh, I know who it is. It's my buddy Colin.
Okay, now I can hear that.
I was going to say that sounds like Rich. Richmond.
That sounds like Richmond to me. And I'm going to see Colin tomorrow night. No, I'm going to see him, tomorrow night? I'm going to see him Friday night. I'm going up to Atlanta. As a matter of fact, we're taking a course on medical reimbursement for dental procedures. So there's this general dentist, Chris Fallujah, from something like that. And he has developed a course for a diagnosis, developed a course to allow you to be reimbursed for the diagnostic procedures you do. And he says it's fail safe. I'll be taking the course in Atlanta on Friday, and
What is his name? You said?
It's Chris. I think it's Fallujah, Fallugia.
Okay, Chris, you said.
I wish I could mute Colin. Can I mute him?
Yeah. In Atlanta. You know, a while ago, I also took some courses regarding medical reimbursement, but it's miserable. It's miserable. It's not very easy. So you should keep me posted on that one. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
to see how that goes.
I will, because I've done the same thing, and it didn't work well at all. So
No. It's not.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. If the first ad doesn't work, you go to the next one. If the first consultant doesn't work, you go to the next one. You don't give up. So that's what we do.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate it.
Okay, sure, Ray. Anybody else have any questions tonight? All right, folks. Well, listen, it's been a real pleasure. And if you do have any questions, of course, just send me an email and to aipsheldon@gmail.com. I love to respond to your questions. So just contact me. You can get Danielle of the same email address. Danielle will be on again in 2 weeks, and we look forward to speaking with you then. Thanks for being part of the AIP. Talk to you soon.
Good night.